I was sitting at my desk, staring at a bank statement that declared I was worth millions, when the doorbell rang, and my past walked back into my life. My name is Emma Harper, and I'm 28. Just a few weeks ago, my Aunt Eleanor, the woman who raised me, left me everything she'd built. Her craftsman-style mansion in Seattle's Capitol Hill, her eco-friendly home decor empire, Greenhaven designs, and a fortune I still can't fully comprehend. I was still reeling from her funeral, my heart heavy with grief, when my parents, people I hadn't seen since they abandoned me at 13, strolled into the lawyer's office like they'd just stepped out for coffee. My mother's smile was too bright, like she was auditioning for a role she'd forgotten the lines to. "Emma, sweetheart," she said, "we're your family." My father nodded, his eyes flickering to the lawyer's folder. That's when Charles, Aunt Eleanor's attorney, walked in, and their faces froze like they'd seen a ghost. Let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up, life felt like a cozy Polaroid, fuzzy around the edges but warm at its core. We lived in a modest apartment in a working-class Seattle neighborhood, with cracked sidewalks and corner stores selling penny candy. My father was a car salesman, always smoothing his tie before heading to the lot, promising me he'd bring home a sports car one day. My mother taught 4th grade, her laughter filling our tiny kitchen as she graded papers with a mug of chamomile tea. We weren't rich, but our rituals made us feel like we were. Friday pizza nights with a rented VHS, summer picnics by Lake Washington, and Christmas mornings where we'd burn pancakes and laugh about it. I was their shadow, trailing them with a child's blind trust that they'd always be there. But even then, there were cracks I was too young to name. My father started staying out late, coming home with eyes red from more than just long hours. I'd hear my mother's voice through the bedroom door, sharp and pleading, asking why the bank account was always empty. She began pulling away too, her laugh fading, her eyes distant, like she was looking at a life that wasn't hers. I was 13 when they vanished. One chilly fall morning, I woke to an apartment too quiet, their bedroom stripped bare except for a note in my mother's loopy handwriting. "Emma, we can't do this anymore. Your Aunt Eleanor will take care of you. We're sorry." 16 words that shattered my world. I sat on the couch, clutching that note, waiting for a phone call that never came, while the life I'd known slipped away like sand through my fingers. The days after my parents left felt like living in a house with no walls. I kept their note under my pillow, rereading it as if it might explain why I wasn't enough to keep them. The landlord banged on the door, gruff about unpaid rent, and I lied, saying they'd be back soon, terrified he'd call someone to take me away. By the 3rd day, hunger gnawed at my stomach. Cereal was all I had left, and fear finally won. I told my school counselor, who brought in a social worker named Miss Harper. Her soft voice and steady hands were the first safe thing in days. She tracked down Aunt Eleanor, my father's older sister, who lived across the state in a world I couldn't imagine. When Eleanor arrived, she was a force, tall, silver hair pinned tightly, her navy coat pristine against our peeling apartment walls. "Pack what matters," she said, her tone clipped but not cruel. I stuffed a duffel with clothes, my dog-eared copy of The Secret Garden, and a photo of me and my parents at a county fair, their smiles frozen in a moment I could no longer trust. The drive to her home was silent, the hum of her sleek car the only sound as Seattle's gray skyline faded behind us. I kept stealing glances at her, wondering if she even wanted me, or if I was just a duty she couldn't refuse. Eleanor's house was a craftsman masterpiece, warm wood, stained glass, perched on a quiet street in Capitol Hill. My bedroom overlooked Puget Sound, the water glinting like it was mocking my chaos. Eleanor laid out rules like a general briefing troops. Breakfast at 7, no shoes indoors, homework at the desk, not the bed. I rebelled at first, leaving dishes in the sink or skipping the piano lessons she insisted I take, half hoping she'd send me away before I could get attached. But she never wavered. When I overslept, she closed the kitchen without a word. When I failed a history quiz, she hired a tutor, her eyes saying she believed I could do better even when I didn't. Slowly, I began to see her not as a stranger, but as a lifeline. One night, I found her in the garden, clipping roses in the moonlight. "You're tougher than you think, Emma," she said, handing me a bloom. It was the first time I felt she saw me, not just the kid she had to fix. Even as I settled into her world, the ache for my parents lingered. I'd lie awake, imagining them walking through the door, apologizing, explaining it was all a mistake. That hope kept me tethered to a past that hurt more every time I reached for it. Living with Eleanor was like learning a new language, structured, precise, but rich once you understood it. She built Green Haven Designs from a single store into a regional empire, and she expected me to match her drive. At 15, she enrolled me in Hillcrest Academy, a private school where kids drove cars nicer than my old apartment. I felt like an imposter, my thrift store backpack clashing with their designer labels. I struggled with calculus and literature, staying up past midnight to catch up, my desk lamp burning as I fought to prove I belonged. Eleanor didn't coddle me. "You're not here to blend in," she'd say. "You're here to stand out." Her words were tough, but they lit a fire in me. By high school graduation, I'd clawed my way to the honor roll, earning a scholarship to the University of Washington. Eleanor pushed me toward business, saying it would give me options my parents never had. We fought when I wanted to study art instead. She called it a hobby, not a career. But one night, she shared a story that stopped me cold. "Your father could have been anything," she said, her voice softer than usual. "He had a mind for numbers, but no one gave him a path. He turned to cards instead." I won't let you repeat that. For the first time, I saw her not just as my guardian, but as someone fighting to rewrite my family's story. College was where I found my stride. I majored in business, but minored in design, blending Eleanor's pragmatism with my creativity. Summers, I interned at Green Haven, learning to charm vendors and spot market trends. Eleanor began trusting me with real responsibility, redesigning store displays, pitching marketing campaigns. Our Sunday calls became less about rules and more about ideas, her dry laugh sneaking through when I'd pitch something bold. When I graduated, she offered me a job as marketing director. "You've earned it," she said, her handshake firm, her eyes warm. For the first time, I felt like her equal. Then, 2 years ago, Eleanor got sick. Pancreatic cancer, the doctor said, and it moved fast. I watched her fight with the same grit she'd always had, working until she couldn't. I took over, scheduling her treatments, cooking meals she barely touched, reading contracts aloud when her eyes grew too tired. One night, as I tucked a blanket around her, she grabbed my hand. "You're my legacy, Emma," she whispered. "Don't let anyone take that from you." She died a few months later, and the house felt like a museum of her absence, every creak of the floorboards a reminder she was gone. 3 weeks after Eleanor's funeral, I got a letter from Charles, her attorney, summoning me to his Seattle office for the will reading. I expected a quiet meeting, perhaps with a few of Eleanor's employees. Instead, I walked into a room that sucked the air out of me. My parents stood there, older but unmistakable, my father heavier, his hair gray, my mother's face sharper, her smile forced. "Emma," my father said, his voice too warm, "you've grown into such a woman." My mother reached for a hug I couldn't return, her perfume choking me with memories I'd buried. Charles began reading the will. Eleanor had left me everything, the house, the business, millions in assets. My parents' eyes lit up and I felt a chill. "This is a lot for someone your age," my mother said, her hand on mine like we were close. "As your parents, we can guide you." My father chimed in, casual but calculated. "Legally, we're still your guardian since Eleanor only had temporary custody." My stomach dropped. They hadn't come for me. They'd come for the money. Before I could speak, Charles cut in. "There's a misunderstanding," he said, his voice steady as he opened a file. "Eleanor adopted Emma when she was 16. She's been her legal daughter for over a decade." He slid adoption papers across the desk, and my world tilted. Eleanor had never told me. My parents' faces crumbled, but my father recovered fast. "We never agreed to that," he snapped. "Those papers are fake." Charles didn't flinch. He pulled out another file, photos, reports, recordings. "Eleanor hired investigators to track you after you left Emma. You were in Reno, gambling, working odd jobs. You signed away your rights for $15,000 from a man named Martin Walsh." My mother gasped, but my father's jaw clenched. Charles handed me a letter in Eleanor's handwriting. I read it aloud, my voice shaking but growing stronger. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, your parents have come for your inheritance. They tried to extort me years ago. $15,000 to not fight for you. More later for their debts. I protected you then, and I'm protecting you now. The room was silent except for my mother's quiet sobs. You've been brainwashed, my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. I stood, clutching the letter. Eleanor was my mother, I said. She showed up when you didn't. You don't get to walk back in now. Charles added, any legal challenge will trigger a clause transferring the estate to a charity for abandoned children. You'd get nothing. Their attorney, Victor, whispered urgently to my father, who stormed out, my mother trailing behind, pleading for me to reconsider. Facing the past. That night, they showed up at my house, banging on the door. I let them in not because I wanted to, but because I needed to end this. We're your family, my mother cried, her eyes scanning the mahogany staircase. My father tried a softer approach. We were sick, Emma, depression, addiction. We thought Eleanor would give you a better life. I cut them off. You knew where I was for 15 years. You called social services, checked in, but never reached out. Now you're here because of a will. I pointed to a camera in the corner. Eleanor recorded every call you made to her, every demand for money. Did you think she'd leave me defenseless? My father's face twisted. She stole you from us, he shouted. That money was our family's, too. I stepped closer, my voice low. Eleanor built this. You built nothing but excuses. A patrol car's lights flashed outside. Charles had arranged security. Leave, I said, or the police will make you. They left, my mother's last words. You'll regret this, Emma, hanging in the air like a bad dream. The weeks after were a blur of grief and clarity. I sat in Eleanor's study, now mine, surrounded by her files and the weight of her love. In a locked drawer, I found a box with my old report cards, a photo of me at Hillcrest graduation, and a note in her sharp script. Emma, I love you not because I had to, but because you're you. I adopted you to make you mine, not to take you from anyone. Be strong, Mom. That word, Mom, broke me open. I cried for the mother I'd lost, not the ones who'd left. I filed a restraining order, and Charles ensured it stuck. My parents tried one last time, sending a letter to a local paper with lies about Eleanor. But the editor, her old friend, shut it down. They slunk back to Reno, their threats empty. I began reshaping the house to feel like mine, painting the walls soft blue, swapping heavy curtains for linen ones that let in light. But I kept Eleanor's garden untouched, her roses blooming as if she were still there, clipping them in the moonlight. Greenhaven Designs grew under my lead. I launched an online store, something Eleanor had resisted, and opened a new location in Portland. The staff saw her and me, her focus, her fairness, and it felt like carrying her forward. But the real legacy was the Eleanor Hughes Foundation. I poured part of the inheritance into it, creating a haven for kids like me, abandoned, adrift, needing someone to show up. We offer scholarships, therapy, and mentorship, helping them build lives not defined by who left them. Mrs. Aurora, Eleanor's housekeeper, became a quiet constant, sharing stories over coffee about Eleanor's early days, how she'd stayed up late learning accounting to save her first store, how she'd panicked before I arrived, but read parenting books anyway. Charles, my godfather, started joining me for Sunday dinners, his advice sharp but kind, like Eleanor's. Therapy with Dr. Ellis helped me untangle the knot of my parents' return. You don't need their apology to move on, she said. You've built a life bigger than their mistakes. A letter from my mother arrived a few months ago. No demands, just regret. It's in my desk, unopened but not thrown away. Maybe one day I'll read it, but not yet. For now, I'm learning to love the life Eleanor gave me. Last weekend, I visited her grave, laying dahlias on the stone where Mother is carved. I told her about the foundation, the business, the person I'm becoming. You showed me what family means, I whispered. Thank you. To everyone reading, thank you for hearing my story. If it moved you, please share it with someone who might need to hear that family isn't just blood, it's the people who stay.